Hello everyone, I am Karvi Rana and I feel ecstatic to welcome you all to the launch event of the 4th Annual Aerospace Summit scheduled to take place virtually on the 26th of November 2021. Today's launch event is presented by Logistics Insider and Kuehne+Nagel, and the theme is When Will Aerospace Reach the Full Thrust? This year's summit will witness an insightful virtual forum with major stakeholders of the aerospace industry sharing a common platform along with representatives of different industries as well as the aviation ministry and customs. The expert forum members will brainstorm on implementing strategies of rebound, conducive business policies, and making custom processes fast and hassle-free, along with other interesting topics. The goal of today's launch event is to have a clearer understanding of the expectations of the industry stakeholders from the summit. This, I believe, will help us steer the discussions in the right direction and allow us to make the summit more objective driven and meaningful for our audiences as well. Now, the havoc caused by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic shook the global aviation industry to a point where it was barely able to keep itself out of the murky waters. Thanks to the fast-tracked vaccination drives, followed by the steady increase in the number of air passengers for reinstalling the confidence in the global aviation industry. Taking the cue, the aerospace industry in India, equally hurt by the pandemic, began to restore its momentum on the back of rising activities from defense, civil aviation sectors, and an increase in demand for wide and narrow aircraft from Indian carriers. Now, as the aerospace industry sets foot into its recovering journey, it is only fair that the industry experts brainstorm on innovations that can help it reach its full thrust and be fully equipped for any such uncertainties. Now, before we introduce our esteemed speakers for today, I would like to call upon Mr. Erik Goedhart, Senior President, Global Head of Aerospace, Kuehne+Nagel, to convey the vision of Kuehne+Nagel Aerospace Summit since 2018. The stage is all yours, Mr. Erik.
Thank you, Karvi, and good afternoon to all. As in the past 2 years, whenever we have exchange of views, I say I would love to be in India instead of called Switzerland. But this is the way we have to deal with it. I'm looking forward very much to meet you all again in the fourth Kuehne+Nagel Aerospace Summit, and I would like to, in this few minutes, put a number of things into a little bit of perspective. So first of all, let's be aware and let's stay patient that this pandemic is just another bump in the aerospace journey. We have had 9/11, we have had SARS, we have had all kinds of other things. This is a little bit of a deep bump, I have to say. Let's all be honest. It is disrupting the industry for approximately 4 years, but the long-term journey in aerospace is there. And the number 3 position, which India will take in global air transport, will not be different. There's only a little bit delay in the development. Hence, all the summits we did, with the first one in 2018, how to work together to become a world leader in India in 2030. The second one in 2019 on technology-driven innovations. The third one, also with Mr. Amber, very closely related to the government plans for 2040. And now the fifth one coming up, where we need to take a number of new discussions and perspectives into account. So when the pandemic started in April 2020, we acted agile. So we had 4 alternative strategies, of which one was to exit aerospace, and we see a number of logistic providers stepping out. But we committed to stay on, to adjust and to tune, and to stay focused in order to come out as the market leader in a much smaller market. And of course, let's be realistic that this time it was not only the aerospace market having a severe bump, but the logistic market is completely disrupted as well. It started with the green evergreen in the Suez Canal, but the whole logistic market is also disrupted like never before. So that needs new initiatives in cargo, that needs new look at the industries, and we need to look, and we will look in the end of November, at the macro perspective, like e-commerce, like what's China doing, at the aerospace perspective, with Airbus ramping up production now again in the narrow bodies, while the wide bodies will remain a question when that will revamp. Of course, the sustainable defense industry, then the challenges in the supply chain and logistics. But there's one element as the last one, which even comes closer to India and seeing this whole bump or event as one big opportunity for India. If you see the launches of ventures in the past few years with India in the aerospace and defense industry, it's really impressive. There's even one point more impressive, and that is that there will only be a future in aerospace and defense with a different way of working together. We have had too long that we only dealt with spreadsheets, and more spreadsheets. And I think thrust, the power in the industry, the power in the engines can only come back by a new way of working, which is based on trust. And if there's any country in the world where I learned that trust between persons and organizations is a differentiator, it's India. So both from a competence point of view as from a new way working point of view, for me, India, working together with India, the government and the key players is one big opportunity coming out of this challenging pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erik, for this brilliantly, setting the tone for this year's summit. And I'm sure the industry is as excited for the upcoming summit as we are. And now moving forward, let me call upon Mr. Ranjeet Sarai, Vice President, Aerospace Asia Pacific, Kuehne+Nagel, who will be moderating today's session. So now I'll hand over the reins of this show to you, sir. Please take the charge.
Thank you, Karvi. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us on this session today. We hope to make it interesting, vibrant, and exciting. Today, I have the pleasure and the privilege of moderating a panel that includes Mr. Arun Kashyap, Chief Program and Transformation Officer at SpiceJet. He'll be representing the airline and the MRO industry. Mr. Ashwani Bhargava, Director of Supply Chain Management at Boeing India, obviously representing the airframers. We'll be joined by Dubey, representing government. Unfortunately, Amber's tied up in a very important project at the moment, so he's running a little bit late, but he will join us and make his contribution as usual. And last but not least, we'll be meeting our new Managing Director for India, Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Kuehne+Nagel, who's based in Delhi. So without further ado, why don't we give our participants an opportunity to introduce themselves and share any insights that they have. Nope, not yet. There we go. All right. So Erik, why don't we start with you? When will it return to full thrust?
Well, as I said in the introduction, it's a bump. It started in 2020. Narrow body. I think the overall passenger travel will be back at 70% globally of pre-COVID factors by the end of this year. Subject to fourth waves, etc., because it's quite scary what's happening nowadays again. But then it will take up to 2026, but especially the narrow bodies will go already above pre-pandemic in 2023, end of 2023. And the wide body will stay struggling, also because a number of routes in the wide body market are taken by the A321LR and later on the XLR. So we see some changing patterns as well. But in short, to your question, 2026 for sure, and there will be a different landscape by then as well in aerospace.
Wow. I was hoping that it'd be somewhere around about the 23 mark. How's it rebounding in the region? So in Asia, we're slowly starting to open up with vaccinated travel lanes and corridors. In Europe, you've been traveling every week pretty much.
Yes, traveling, but don't ask how. Even going from Switzerland to my home country, the Netherlands, I needed to do a PCR besides the vaccination, which I have. You need to fill out documents like it was in a non-computer era, and but for instance, the UK was challenging as well. But it is restarting. But let's be honest, from a business perspective, as McKinsey said as well, at least 30% of previous travel will now be replaced by this type of communication.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. Now, what about some of our other panelists? Is Mr. Kashyap on? Are you there with us, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Ranjeet. I'm here with you guys.
Hi, how are you, sir?
All good, all good.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, where do we go? Airlines clamp down. What's the situation?
So, as Erik mentioned in his opening note, the things are getting better now. So, situation is improving with vaccination. There are less COVID cases. We were supposed to see that third wave is not there, thank God, and I hope that it should not come. With that situation, we are like 75% in the market, whatever was pre-COVID. We are thinking that this will continue, and as Erik mentioned, in Europe and the western side, it should get back to the pre-COVID level by this year. And we also see that it should be back in India with the same time in domestic market. International traffic is improving. There are a lot of restrictions around, so that market is kind of uncertain. We see there are some countries which opened up and then later on again banned the travel. So this situation is going to be erratic for time being. I think in 2022 we see that international also should start opening up gradually and stabilize the traffic at that side. Yeah.
Excellent. And you know, if I read correctly, for the winter schedule, you'll be operating in excess of 2,000 flights a week, huh?
In India, all the airlines will be operating around 2,000 flights a day.
Excellent.
And we will be around probably 400 flights in winters.
And how are you ramping up for that? Because, you know, obviously there's a lot of regulation and, let's say, protocols. How are you managing that? It's such a difficult market at the moment, especially moving parts and components.
Yeah. So it's true that logistic is being very, very challenging in past 2 years. Shipping industry is really suffering too hard. So all the things have been taken by air freight. So the air freight is very expensive. Moving parts, getting right connection is difficult in today's age because of the international traffic. But somehow we are managing with our partners like Kuehne+Nagel, with all kind of support available throughout industry and the world. So at this time, yes, it is challenging, but we do a plan, and we get our things moved according to the availability of schedule.
Excellent. Excellent. And you know, to the audience that's here today, what could you share with them that was perhaps something that you, because I know you've been doing a lot of transformation programs there and involved in many projects. Is there anything that you would like to share as a preempt to the more formal session that we'll be having in November to whet their appetite?
Sure, sure. So, one thing with the SpiceJet, we are not afraid of doing something new. We are not afraid of doing taking the challenges. When we were entering in COVID in 2020, people were really scared what is going to happen to Spice and how we are going to move forward. And when there are a lot of restrictions and no flights, how we are going to sustain. So we had a cargo division which we started a year back, and definitely a great vision from Mr. Ajay Singh, and he actually shown the strength, and he has shown that okay, these things can be moved forward very quickly, profitable. That thing gave us advantage, and when we entered into COVID 2020, we took flight, passenger flight is going to go down. We took cargo as our main business. We had 5 freighters. We quickly convert our passenger aircraft to cargo aircraft. We had 20 aircraft at given point of time which could carry the cargo. So
Excellent.
that was a real transformation for us from mainline passenger business to the mainline cargo business in 2020. Then we added MRO was already there. We moved quickly on MRO side. We started doing some in-house activities for maintenance, design. We added the trainings, simulators on SpiceJet Technique, and then later on we add Spice Health. That also was a big project and was a real out of box thinking for SpiceJet. We thought that this is the way we look into growing up horizontally rather than going into the same vertical. So Spice Health, we did 20 lab established within 3 months of time, which is a record. And this kind of projects give motivation to the people, employees, and it gives strength to SpiceJet that we can do anything.
Excellent. Wow, that, when I listen to you there, you make it sound so simple. I can only just imagine the logistics, especially in times where, when we reflect back the situation in India and even, Europe, it was chaos. But, to affect that change, congratulations, sir, and the very best of continued success. Now, Mr. Ashwani Bhargava, you're with us as well.
Me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. How are you today, sir?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on this show.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. So, Boeing, I looked at the Boeing stock, in that darkest, deepest moments, and then we look at everything that's been done in the rebound. How do you? What is it that you would like to start this discussion off with?
Yeah, first of all, I'll agree with all the panelists on their assessment, where we are on reaching the full throttle. And I hope Arun is flying passengers around only on the Boeing airplanes. That will be the real measure of recovery. But I think for us, it's a little different. Boeing is aerospace and defense. While we all agree that the commercial airlines have been hit majorly, the defense piece has been a little more stable for us. And in our view, if we have to get to the full thrust, the entire ecosystem has to rebound. And as the panelist noted, that we are on the recovery path. That's true. And for us to get back to full thrust, we have to recognize what the disruptors were. We're coming out of a shock. So first of all, health and safety is extremely important. And as Arun said, we are doing better on the COVID front. But again, we can get better on that side. Demand, I agree. I mean, narrow body is doing and recovering pretty fast. and it's going to be 2023, 24 before we see the wide body also getting back on track. From the supply chain perspective, there has been major disruption. And for a lot of companies, it was a question of survival. We have been dealing with multiple distressed suppliers who've got the major financial hit. There have been inventories piling on. In particular, the tier 2 and tier 3 supply chain, special process houses, machine houses have been majorly hit. So in my opinion, the recovery will really depend on how fast the entire ecosystem backs on track. The early signs are great. You would have read that in the first 6 months, our exports have grown 45% versus the same time last year. So that's a wonderful sign. But we also need to recognize that there are certain challenges we still need to recover from. It's appropriate to bring in this forum that logistics is becoming one of the major bottlenecks. Now, I know all our freight forwarders, including Kuehne+Nagel, have been trying to help us get there, but there's a huge backlog. There's a capacity crunch. The supply chains are getting back to normal. So, the signs are good. I think the recovery is happening. But just to summarize, I think it's still a little time away.
Yeah, understood. And you summarize it very, very well there, sir. But when you talk about tier 2 and tier 3, it was great to see how Boeing partnered up and made investments and assisted those partners to continue operations in despite the pandemic, to have a sustainable future, that when it does rebound, that you're good to go. What are some of the other major things that Boeing were able to do to adjust to the situation?
Yeah, so I think even in pandemic, I'm talking of India's supply chain in particular here, we had a very minimal disruption to our production line. And you would appreciate that we were working through not just COVID, but closure of factories, absenteeism, logistic challenges. And for us to deliver on time to the business, everybody has to come together. Even the government. And I still recall situations where we had to move shipments when there was complete lockdown between states and from India back to US. And the government also stepped in and helped us. They removed all the bottlenecks that we had moving the consignments. Because, we have to appreciate that if India has to become a major sourcing hub with a few suppliers who could perhaps be the sole suppliers or handling major percentage of our buy, then we cannot afford disruptions, even if it's pandemic or otherwise. So I think the whole ecosystem came together. It was also about how we planned our supply chain, thinking ahead of time, looking ahead of deliveries, working with our headquarters. They were very supportive, very flexible where it was possible and made sense. So I think the entire industry came together, the government came together, our supplier partners came together, and that's one of the reasons why we did not see major disruption here.
Excellent. Now, one of the topics that you bring up there, which is crucial and of the utmost importance, is logistics. So, Erik, how did we, or let's say you, as a leader of the aerospace vertical, dealing with the complete life cycle ecosystem from launch right the way through to recycling, what did you do to support the customers? Because everyone was up in arms, right?
Yeah, and we can like we heard from the experiences of Boeing, we can talk nice and strategic and sunshine stories, but it was not sunshine, right? So up to today, it's blood, sweat, and tears every day to keep supply chains going. For instance, towards Boeing, we have containers on the sea for Boeing with seats out of Asia, and we need to take off the containers at interim stops or divert the ships to keep the production lines going for the customers of and the suppliers of Boeing. So it's really a daily micromanagement, as you know yourself as well, Ranj, with focus on the customer and focus on flexibility and agile decision making. So that's one. But of course, the understanding with if you look at the results of logistic providers, it's really a good market to be in. However, that's the consumer market, that's the pharmaceutical market. So all markets are booming because of e-commerce, etc. And as we all know, aerospace is a low volume, high value market. So Boeing and Airbus make 1,600 aircraft a year, hopefully this year again. But the car manufacturer make 8,000 cars a week. So the processes are the same, but the dynamics is so different. And now the question is, who is interested in that single flight management computer, which has the form of a laptop, but is 160,000 and crucial to get a Boeing or Airbus aircraft produced? And who has that dedicated attention? And I can tell you, I'm really proud of the team, how we went through the pandemic. I'm not proud of what we needed to do to keep it going. And yes, we fail as well, but we daily mitigate. As you know as well, every morning we have shipments overview, where is it? And it's really, I really hope it relaxes a little bit. But we only, sorry for the audience, I don't see it relax before the second part of next year. We really. There's now the Christmas season to come, the Chinese New Year is to come. So I can only say what to advise to the industry. And yes, I'm Kuehne+Nagel, but work with global providers who have a dedicated aerospace team who cares about that single flight management computer, who have one IT system to really follow where it is at the moment. And that's a different world than before, I can tell you. And that will disappear, but not in the upcoming half year.
Okay, thank you. So back to Arun, I think. Well, Arun's had to take a call, so we'll let him do that quickly. Yeah, I think for us it was dealing with the full spread, and it was a little bit difficult. Now, is Mr. Dubey on the call yet? He should be around about now. If not, back to you, Arun. Saved by the bell, as they say.
No, thanks, Ranjeet. So no, I hear out Ashwani and Erik. In the pandemic, we worked very closely with both of you, it's like KNN and Boeing company, and I can assure you that all the people in this room, we worked together and rose up to the occasion, like challenges with logistics, challenges to convert the aircraft quickly from passengers to the cargo. Everybody was so up to the mark that we didn't lose any time, and we
Okay.
initiated this process, and it was very well accepted by the stakeholders, including DGC in India. So
So the past is behind us now. We can't change that. What is your roadmap for the future? You've done all this transformation, and you've reset yourself. I pray that we don't get another huge wave, and people can meet loved ones and family. So what's next for you? Good evening, Mr. Dubey.
Hi, namaskar. Good evening.
hey.
All right, sorry, Arun.
Yeah, thanks, Ranjit. And I will not take much time because Amber has
Oh,
joined.
you take as much time as you need.
So,
Why? Carry on.
no, it is you who has the short of time today, so that's fine.
No. Please carry on.
So, important thing, we need to be self-sustained in aviation in India. The roadmap for this is MRO is one area. We are growing and we are up to the mark. We are taking that challenge and we are going to enhance our capability in India with more certifications, more product range, more aircraft and components to add. So those things is one area. Second area, what we are looking forward is to put ourselves into the same vision as PM of India is having made in India. So we are going to look into some manufacturing part. We are looking forward to having a design office which can design certain parts in India and manufacturing. So
Okay,
that's the next vision for India for SpiceJet.
excellent. Excellent. Well, listen, we won't take too much. We've got to save something for the next pack. So, Mr. Dubey, thank you very much for taking time. We know you've been in some very important meetings. So we've touched upon the OEMs, the MROs, the airline, and the operators. And obviously, from your perspective, I reflect back to those very early days when you were supporting with the moderation and everything. So I can only give you the stage and let you impart your knowledge and wisdom for the few minutes you have with us.
No, so Ranjeet, if you can just ask me a pinpointed question, I can talk about that, because I mean, I love talking and I can be very verbose. So if you ask me a specific question, I can give you
what's keeping you busy?
No, busy. It's only drones, because drones you're seeing, it's like caught like wildfire. Right up to the Prime Minister is involved. On 13 November, he's coming down to our drone festival. We had a drone festival in Delhi, and he's coming along with 6 cabinet ministers, never seen before. Okay, so I mean this, and I'm the chief organizer, so we're just shitting bricks. I mean, sorry for the language, but I mean, I'm just coming from the venue, and now 5:30 I have to give the updated presentation to the secretary, who will then send it to the minister, who then has to send it to the Prime Minister's office, because Prime Minister is now leaving for the G20 summit in Rome. So it's I mean, working with the government, you work almost 3 times of what you do in the corporate sector. You get paid 1/10 of what you're paid in the private sector. So it's like a 30 times Vanny, 30x Vanny. Okay, you work that 3 times. There's no weekend. There's nothing called a weekend. With a prime minister like ours, who works maybe 26 hours a day, even we have to work now 13 to 14 hours a day. Wow. And then he works 8 days a week. We work 7 days a week. So that's the way it is. It's very, very tough. So that's what keeps him busy. Drones, of course, is my almost, I would say, 70% of my portfolio. And then other things like skill development. I am also the vice chancellor of the Aviation University. I'll also look after the flying academies, and there are 32 of those. We want to make it to 40. There are AME schools and various kinds of trainings that we want to do at the university. So we are open to tie-ups with Kuehne+Nagel and where all the big companies. We have this beautiful infrastructure created at a place called Amethi in UP. Okay, 200 crores worth of almost, that's almost like $30 million US spent on creating a world-class academic block and a residential block. And I would encourage people to come there, see it. I mean, don't believe me. Don't believe a bureaucrat. Always come and check out on your own. And if you like the place, come and we'll create some industry-led, industry-oriented technical programs, not pure studies and doing science or commerce. Even if science and commerce or arts will be related to aviation. So that's what we do at the university. So these are just a quick summary of what I do. Of course, other than that, I'm also chairman of the investment committee here, and I'm also the chief, information security officer, the IT network. I also look after the ministry website. So I mean, I can go on and on. Let's stop here. Let's move to the next question, Ranjeet.
So you. I remember a couple of years ago, you were leading the connectivity of the future generation in the industry, the academies and the employers, and you touch upon that now. How is it with the training and the development? Because I imagine some people will be very scared to pursue a career in aviation when you look at what happened with the airlines, the MROs, and the OEMs. What's your take on that, Amber?
Yeah, it's a very funny part, Ranjeet, because we have seen no slowdown. Let's go by numbers. So our biggest flying academy is IGRUA, again in Amethi. So IGRUA and my National Aviation University are just co-located. In fact, the university is built by carving out some 26 acres of land from the flying academy. And flying academy, we have 250 students with and every time we do a test, I mean, we always get maybe some 10 or 20 times the applications of what the seats we have, and the batches are coming in. We are advancing the batches because we want to speed up the increase of CPS, the commercial pilot license holders. There's no shortage of applicants. There's no shortage of students seeking help because they know these COVIDs will come and go. COVID is an old story now. And I think India, of course, we often look down on India as one of those usual third world countries, mismanaged, overpopulated, poor people, poor infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, I mean, see, we've still done 1 billion vaccinations. You can say, this is also fraud. I'm saying cut off 20%. That's still 100 crore, 800 million people, 800 million vaccinations here, which entire Europe is less than that. So We have done it, and India as a country always shocks, as they say, both the optimistic and the pessimistic both get shocked by India. So we are somewhere in the middle. We are neither. On the aviation front, anyway, we look at the daily traffic, and nowadays on our website, if you notice, the ministry puts out daily traffic figures along with on-time performance and the passenger load factor. No country in the world does it. You go to China, US, whatever, you have to pay subscription money to get this kind of data. We do it on a daily basis for each airline. Okay, and then a consolidated one comes from both Airport Authority and DGCA, again put free of cost. No country in the world puts out this data. So if you look at the data, I mean, we're only climbing, and this COVID shit is over. And hopefully there will be no third wave because our first festival season is gone, the Durga Puja, Dashera types. And now we have the Diwali coming up, and that is also just a matter of 1 week. And if this hump we can carry, then the next hump will come only around Christmas time, which is not that big. Anyway, it's too cold. People are not going to meet up so much as they do around this Hindu festival. So I think that thing is over. So the traffic is going up. And in terms of pilots, in terms of skill development, we have seen no respite. I mean, no reduction in interest because education is forever, skills are forever. COVID is only a short-term phenomenon. Ranjeet?
Excellent.
Ambers, if I may, it's so good to see you again. And
hi, Erik.
Hi, Amber. Despite all the challenges that you are so energetic on top, it's a warm heart to see it, and I hope we can meet again soon, also face to face. Sorry, Ranj.
No. I was going to say, I know you guys love to have a little bit of a straightforward discussion. Feel free. Now, there you go. Looks like Amber's been working out. But no, I was just going to touch. Ashwani was talking about how the government, the ministry, helped pave the way to enable them to survive and progress in what was very difficult. Especially with cross domestic movements and stuff like that. So what else, what can you share? I know you've got a couple of minutes left with us. What else would you like to share to the panelists, to the audience about what we as a group can expect from yourself and your
things, because I don't have Ranjeet a prepared speech, so I'll speak from the heart. And first of all, see, India is a very highly under-penetrated country when it comes to aviation, okay? Because of pathetic policies, I'll be very blunt and honest. I mean, I'm criticizing my own ministry where I earn my livelihood from. But it's all nice people. But maybe the focus was not there. Aviation was always treated as a luxury item. It's gone now. Because now we have a prime minister who himself comes from super humble origin, very, very humble origins, okay? And then he's the one who's saying, every poor man should fly. And we have this Hindi thing called Hawai Chappal Wale Ko Hawai Jahaz mein bithana. So you want a guy wearing a Hawai Chappal, sitting in a Hawai Jahaz, this is the aircraft. Now he makes this pithy statement, then he expects people like us, the highly educated, so-called, with all the nice degrees from the nice colleges, okay, to convert his vision into day-to-day action. So once he's given that pithy statement, we came up with the Udan scheme way back in 2015. We drafted it. In fact, as KPMG, we were involved in the initial drafting 2016. Then the rules, the policy came out, and 2017 was the first Udan flight. And I was just checking the data this morning. Some 72 lakh, 7.2 million people have flown on Udan scheme. I remember when we were drafting it, the then Secretary Mr. Chaubey used to ask us, you're drafting all this, and then both Indigo and SpiceJet are showing no interest, and I don't know whether this will click or not. We are going to Finance Ministry, Prime Minister's office to get this interministerial clearance from the Committee of Secretaries. But will at least 500,000, at least 1 million people will fly? Till yesterday, 7.2 million people have flown on these Udan flights. It just shows that, see, if you design a scheme keeping the fundamentals in mind, work with the industry, we work with Airbus, Boeing, with the airlines, understand the financials, the economics, got numbers from each. Of course, the numbers will vary heavily depending on their strategy and what they want to tell the government in their particular interest, which is absolutely fine. But our job is to then average it out and go to some and look at the financial side, the economic side, the social side, the financial side, and the capacity of the government to pay. And it's a self-generating scheme wherein we make money from the trunk routes, we charge a small money from the passenger trunk route, which is a self-financing scheme. And that money then goes to the same airline. We earn from Indigo, we give it back to Indigo when they fly on those smaller routes. But it's like to like. Okay, so this is just one scheme. So why I gave this example is, at the topmost level, at the vision and philosophy, because if vision of a country is very clear. So one day Singapore decided aviation is going to be a pillar, or Dubai decided, or Abu Dhabi much came later to copy whatever Emirates did. They decided that aviation is going to be a focus area. Rest follows, because the vision has to be clear. Once the vision is clear, then the policy gets converted into legal law. Policy is nothing but legislation in English, plain English. Then comes the legislation, the act, then the rules, and then under the rules, then you frame the regulations and which forms to fill, what fees to charge, what penalties to apply, blah blah. So vision wise, we are very clear. Okay, in terms of acts and rules and actions, now you see Air India gone, Airport Authority, all major airports gone, all our metros are privatized. Now the smaller ones are getting privatized. Even the smallest sometimes are now being clubbed with a slightly healthier airports and given out. This is part, not just in aviation, this is part of the overall vision of the government, that government will not do business. Government cannot be an umpire and a batsman also. Okay, so we'll be in governance and regulation, and our primary focus is public welfare, social welfare. We should not be airline or cargo or MRO operators, okay, or airport operators. There are enough smart people in this country or abroad who will be very happy to come here and do it. So that's another clear vision. First is to take it to the masses. Number two, government will only govern. We will not run businesses. Even the flying academy that I spoke about, Indira Gandhi Udan Academy, largest academy, 250 cadets, 18 aircraft, which is the largest fleet. Even that we've been told, get it off. Get it off. You focus more on training standards, training quality, and punish the guys who give wrong undertakings and don't follow safety norms, so that these young cadets coming out will become bad pilots when they join the airlines. Go after them. So if I save time in operations, I can focus more time on governance, regulation, and rewarding and punishing. Okay, so that's another thing. I mean, I can go on and on. Now, even in now center state. Now, last point. Our minister, now we have a very young, dynamic minister who himself works, is a workaholic, Saturday, Sunday. Not a good thing though, I mean, you may argue, but 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, and he is traveling across the country. He's meeting, one of our biggest problems that we face is the fuel cost. And on the fuel cost, there's some huge taxes, 20-30%. It's easy. It's easy to make money from for oil companies than to collect on every toffee or a bread or biscuit that you purchase. Okay, so oil is like a huge lucrative, very easy, very difficult to do tax evasion on. He is going state after state and negotiating like a true businessman, including both BJP and non-BJP party. You want this, you want this airport, that airport, you want airline services here, this, that, to be brought under Udan scheme. Cut your ATF down to 1 or 2%, below 5% basically. And state after state, because of his personal push and personal connect and personal whatever charisma, magnetism, and his negotiating skills, he's achieving the impossible. Okay, so many states are now converting to 1 and 2%, and then he's finding ways to encourage airlines to go there or bring them under Udan scheme. So, okay, so now just to sum it up, okay, I think we are in good hands. We have a clear vision. Otherwise, see, I'm a selfish bastard. I will never join the government at 1/10 the salary if I don't see my time getting better use and I'm making an impact somewhere here and there, which is applicable to the whole country, rather than just to that one company or one entity or that one unit that I'm working for in the private sector. Okay, so I'm not here for just time pass or charity. I'm here for a very selfish reason. So vision is clear. Good things are happening. The traffic is picking up. The COVID bullshit is almost getting over. And from here, only thing which will happen is growth. Only weakness is our poor things in our poor status in the aerospace manufacturing. That has been flagged off at the PM's level. And there is a feeling that the big OEMs have only used India as a market. You're saying we are not some small country in Africa or Southeast Asia or something that you can just treat us as a market. You have to come and partner with us, and you have to give something back when you send we make the largest orders of certain type of aircraft. Okay, we also want something back. So components, assemblies, whatever, please ship some aerospace back. MRO, another big area where we are weak. We're saying we want to do it here. Aircraft leasing, that's another area. We said the gift city, we have matched everything that you talk about in Ireland, except for, of course, the treaties that you have. You can even do a sublease. You can have your primary leasing out of Ireland, but you have to do your secondary leasing. You can do through India and take all the benefits that you want. And you tell us where we are weak and we'll change it. That's the sort of attitude. So I'll stop here, but that just gives you a quick overview of what is happening.
So drones keep you awake for a few hours of the day, but the rest of the day is consumed with so much. And it's great that there's passion, there's energy, it's for the nation, it's for the people. And I just wish every place was like that. So Ashwani, Arun, anything that you want to add to that? I know we're cutting the time very fine here, but we talk manufacturing, MRO, exactly what Arun was talking about. We're talking about people managing health and safety, and the development people is what Ashwani was talking about earlier. So I think it really summarizes and sums up very nicely the patriotism and the way forward. Anything you
Yeah,
guys?
no, oh, absolutely. And I'm absolutely confident that Amber was not talking about Boeing when he was talking about big OEMs, because we
No.
have reasons to believe. And we just hosted him the other day in Hyderabad at our joint venture. So if he comes back again, he'll see the big 737 vertical fin line coming up very nicely. But
Excellent.
again, beyond that, Amber, I'm happy to share that this particular year perhaps has been very productive for us in terms of getting more work. Uh, if you had read some of the press release we had, beyond 737 vertical fin, we also announced certain major assemblies on 737 coming into India. We have also given awards to multiple MSMEs on the manufacturing side of it. So I think Boeing has demonstrated it's serious about India, not just as a market, but also as a place where we can take the best of India to Boeing. Our
Excellent.
commitment, yeah, our commitment to the big campus that's coming up in Bangalore, and between the JV and the big campus, we have invested major amount of money. And then as a corporate citizen, we brought in $10 million of aid, in the COVID time,
Yeah.
recognizing that we have to contribute on that side too. So again, Ranjeet, as Amber, I can talk more on this subject, but in the interest of time, maybe
Yeah.
have Arun speak as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if we can wrap up in the next couple of minutes, Aaron, then we can pass it back to Kavi to do a quick Q&A.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think Amber and Ashwani has summarized it very well. I don't want to add anything further. Whatever has been spoken about and added on this forum, I will hand over to the Karvi. Thank
You're
you.
always very humble, Aaron. Very humble, sir. Always a pleasure. All right, Kavi, back to you.
Hi. Like right now, Mr. Ashwani said that Boeing is very much committed to India. So my first question is directed to Mr. Ashwani. Sir, how is Boeing approaching the Indian supply chain market, and what are some of the milestones that you plan to achieve going forward?
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. So as just mentioned, we're not looking at India market as the market for sales alone. We have made huge investments here. See, the definition of supply chain has changed for us in the last couple of years. First of all, it has to start with the mindset. A lot of people will say that you should come to India for offset. We have demonstrated over the last 3 to 4 years that it's not just offset that we're looking at. It's also about getting the value from what the best is in India. So therefore, to answer your question, Garvey, it really stems back from what we have already done in Indian market. We are looking at India not just as a good source of IT, engineering, manufacturing pool of the best of the best, in that sense, but also the domain expertise of the human capital. We're going to have 3,000 plus engineers in our campus in BITC, which is in Bangalore. We are scaling up our supply chain presence also. So therefore, our intent is to, get the best of India to Boeing. In that process, we also end up developing the bigger ecosystem that we have in India. 26% of our supply chain is MSMEs, the smaller suppliers. Not because we had to check the box, but also, but but because we think the MSMEs bring a lot of value to the bigger ecosystem. We are at $1 billion, in annual sourcing from India. We have intent to grow that. We are training and skilling the workforce required for aerospace. We are developing suppliers. A lot of training goes into the whole process. And as it stands today, we are manufacturing from nuts to fuselage. Fuselage is an Apache fuselage that we do at our joint venture. We are developing suppliers for the MRO sector, and going from components to high and complex assemblies. So again, the future is about growth and development. The future is about tapping full potential for India. The future is also about contributing to the Indian skill force. We have been touching 3,000 lives in the pandemic period. We have trained over 3,000 workforce. And, we have generated employment in the country, over 15,000, direct and indirect both.
Very well put, Mr. Bhargava. And it's good to hear that how companies are committed towards India and want to tap upon Indian market. So now, moving from here, I would direct my next question to SpiceJet. So it's for you, Mr. Arun. In the recent years, we saw that SpiceJet has been investing aggressively into different streams, such as SpiceJet Technic and Spice Express and Spice Health. So, how do you manage to handle it all together in these, challenging times? And how are you planning to move ahead?
Yeah. No, so I explained it earlier also that we think that it is not about vision at far. It is about how good you are at transformation. So things changes so much in recent past. If you are not able to transform yourself or your vision, you are nowhere. So there are many companies which has lost in this COVID. There are very good examples who have transformed and sustained and proved to be the better company during this time. So this thing which has are able to adapt to the situation, we are able to change our path very quickly. And definitely our leader, Mr. Ajay Singh, he is a great visionary and great motivator for all of us. We could do it anything anytime.
Thank you, Mr. Arun. Crisp yet very informative. So moving on, Mr. Amber, my next question is directed to you. Apart from R&D, which other sectors should India be looking to invest in, in order to strengthen its aerospace infrastructure in the nation?
Investment, investment. I mean, I can't pinpoint any subsector where you should not invest. I mean, I know it's a very standard question, but I'm sorry, I don't have a specific answer. Aerospace, anything you invest in, this is the market of the future. I mean, we're not even scratching the surface. We are some 140 million domestic, 140 million domestic for a country of whatever, a billion, 1.4 billion people. I mean, we'll go 5 times of this, 10 times of this. And very soon the government will bring in more and more offset concepts, even on the commercial side. There is talk about that. We are just staying silent because we don't want to upset anyone at this moment when the recovery is on. But very soon we will ask for a pound of flesh. So while Ashwani is doing fantastic work, and kudos to him, Salil, and before him Pratt was here. Okay, but we will ask for much more. And we while we have our feelings about our friendly neighbor up north called China, but we also learn from them the way they have developed their own both aerospace manufacturing and MRO. Okay, by being very tough negotiators. We've been very humble people. Okay, fine, if you do 10 million, 100 million, or 500 million, we really thank you, we kiss your hand and all that. But all that will change because we are going to get very, very aggressive. That if you're going to make so much money from India, I mean, defense is fine, defense is separate, but on commercial side, and now we're going to add the two because the companies are the same. Okay, that in aerospace and defense, okay, both commercial and defense, if this is the money you're going to make, certain portion of that has to be invested. And whether you do it in R&D or scaling or something, we need hard infrastructure, hard components, and even assembly, inshallah, one day. Why not? Okay, and if we can do C295 here, why can't we do other aircraft also? Okay, so whether it's a defense or a commercial, there is opportunity in each one of those. Yeah. Thank you. And also drones. Drones is going to be the next big area. I mean, I don't want to overstretch my answer, but drones is a huge, huge opportunity area where we are not even scratching the surface. We haven't even reached the surface. Karvi?
Thank you for that, Mr. Dubey, and we're sure that India will, venture in more in the aerospace dynamics. So, looking at the time constraints, this brings me to my last question. It's for Kuehne+Nagel. So either Mr. Erik or Mr. Ranjeet could answer to this question. So, ITA has voted to strengthen the airline industry's environmental ambition and set a target to achieve net zero carbon emission by 2025. How is the aerospace industry geared up for this? So,
Erik?
Thank you, Karvi and Raj. A way to go, I would say. I think sustainability is back at the top of the agenda. I think it has not been on the top of the agenda because of the pandemic. And there we have the aerospace route map until 2050, which is quite long, but by then we hope that there will be hydrogen and electrical aircraft flying, however, not for the long haul yet. In between, something needs to happen. So that's the structural part. What we can do now already is to become supply chain logistics-wise carbon neutral by 2030. And I don't understand sometimes why we cannot do what we can do now and then always revert to 2050. Yes, some things cannot be done before 2050, but a lot can be done before 2030. And I think from a business perspective, that is what we need to prioritize further. So, and there's easy parts like using sustainable fuel. That's with a bank of sustainable fuel which we have. That's the easy part. But the end-to-end logistics includes just 17 points of transfer with 17 points of carbon emission. So we need to look at end-to-end, and we can achieve that by 2030 from a logistics point of view in close collaboration. And perhaps also that's what we can address further at the summit, how we can work together as parties in the industry in India to set an example in this.
Which I think is a perfect segue into Kuhn's wrap up. And maybe Kuhn, you can talk about some of the projects in India for sustainability as you wrap up for us.
Thank you very much, Ranjeet and Karvi. Thank you for facilitating this session. It's an honor for me to be in this show as the managing director for India. I have joined this team in India in July. Aerospace for us is, besides our pharma and e-com development, the most important industry sector we focus on. Coming back to what Erik said earlier in the show, in the past 18 months, we have kept our teams in place. We have kept our focus on aerospace to make sure that we can restart in an agile way as soon as things are coming up again, which is happening as we speak. I personally will start traveling again in India after Diwali, so I look forward to that. In the discussions, I was impressed today in the show by the passion and the knowledge there is, and that is typically India. It is incredible India, what's happening here, and I'm sure that the growth will be strong in the next years to come. From a topic point of view, I think we have scratched the surface in this discussion and in this pre-discussion. So I would like to encourage you all to register for the summit on the 26th of November. And I would like to thank again the audience for participating and the panelists and Logistics Insider for organizing this. Thank you very much. Happy Diwali and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Kuhn. Karvi, over to you.
So thank you. I would like to extend my gratitude to all our esteemed speakers for joining in and our audiences. And also now, before I bring down the curtain for today's launch, I would like to inform our audiences that the registrations for the summit, which is scheduled in November, is open and you can go register yourself. And I'm sure that today's discussion have definitely hooked you up and you guys are looking forward for the event as we all are. So on this note, thank you everyone and see see you at the summit. Yeah. Thank you.